Ladies and gentlemen, the hall we sit in today was dedicated 70 years ago this month. On this historic stage, more than 385,000 graduates have received a Purdue diploma. This weekend, 6,000 more from the class of 2010 will join them. Graduates, you may think you have little in common with the students of 1940, but what you and every class of Purdue graduates share is the tireless support of parents, relatives, teachers, and friends who helped you reach this day. So please take a moment right now to show them how much you appreciate them. For many of you, the Purdue experience began on this stage just a few short years ago. Do you remember when you arrived for Boiler Gold Rush? Nintendo's Wii and MTV's The Hills were all the rage then. Pluto was still a planet, but not for long. And none of us knew what an app was or a Snuggie. In the years that followed, you texted and tweeted, Skyped and scribbed, friended, unfriended. You joined the paint crew and cheered our Boilermakers to men's and women's Big Ten tournament championships. And trips for these teams to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. You sledded down Slater Hill. I did that too. Sipped Pappy's milkshakes and constructed and raced in every kind of vehicle, from the gas Grand Prix to the nation's first electric vehicle Grand Prix this year, to the International Shell Eco Marathon Americas, where Purdue took first place in the solar power category. On this stage, you heard from thinkers and doers, including Thomas Friedman, Jane Goodall, and our own professor, Bit Min Nguyen, author of Stealing Buddha's Dinner. You rocked with Kelly Clarkson, Wilco, and native Hoosier John Mellencamp. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, and the Queen of YouTube, Lady Gaga, appeared on this stage. Though not together. Much occurred on the world stage during your time at Purdue as well. Efforts to promote or sustain peace and democracy abroad, an historic presidential election, a worldwide economic crisis, vigorous debates on energy production and healthcare, the aftermath of tsunamis and earthquakes, and a global focus on world hunger and a degraded environment. Within this framework of world events, and spurred by your own desire to become leaders and make a difference, you met your own challenges right here at Purdue. You completed rigorous classes to prepare you well for your careers, and you found time to intern and volunteer in record numbers. Graduate students, you did all that, and you taught classes, and you broke new ground in research, defining new frontiers in discovery. All of you were so busy, you may have wondered if this day would ever come. Well, here it is. In a few moments, you'll march up one side of the stage as students and stride down the other as scholars. And now the question becomes, what will you do next? Our expectations of you are high. Purdue graduates have led Fortune 500 companies and launched cable TV networks. They've won Pulitzer, Nobel, and World Food Prizes. They've served as mayors, governors, members of Congress, and cabinet officers. Some have made it big on the Hollywood stage. Boilermaker Callie Khouri took home the 1992 Academy Award for Best Screenplay for Thelma and Louise, which debuted Brad Pitt. Peter Schneider, another Purdue theater graduate, resurrected Disney animation in the 1980s and 90s, creating animated films we all remember: The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. Many of you saw Peter on campus last month for a screening of his new documentary about those days called Waking Sleeping Beauty. And on the sports stage, there's Boilermaker Drew Brees, who led the New Orleans Saints to their first Super Bowl victory in February. With his outstanding performance, Purdue became the only university to produce 3 quarterbacks who have started, won, and been named Most Valuable Player of a Super Bowl, further cementing our reputation as cradle of quarterbacks. And then there's the stage that knows no bounds: outer space. 2 Boilermakers launched themselves from the Elliott Hall of Music, ultimately onto the surface of the moon. They're joined by many other astronauts and space engineers and scientists who hail Purdue as their alma mater. One Purdue graduate alumnus, a scientist, will be aboard the last space shuttle to fly, scheduled for next November. So when I told that recently to an acquaintance, he said, "Don't all space shuttles have Boilermakers on them?" Perhaps someone from the class of 2010 will rise from this stage even farther into space, exploring Mars or destinations still unknown. From astronauts to athletes, artists and writers to anthropologists, Purdue alumni have made their presence felt around the world and high above it. Graduates, the spotlight shines on you now. From this stage, many of you will enter the world's creative and scientific communities as performers, writers, researchers, and artists. Some of you will bring your skills in the humanities and sciences to the worlds of business and industry. Others will enter law, medical, or vet school, or pursue another advanced degree. Some of you will touch the future as teachers. Last night, we heard from a person who, like you, graduated from Purdue, and today is one of our distinguished faculty members. Gabisa Jeta grew up in poor circumstances in rural Ethiopia, yet this year was awarded the World Food Prize for his work on grain production that has saved hundreds of millions of lives in sub-Saharan Africa. The World Food Prize is considered the Nobel Prize of Agriculture. Here is what he said to our graduates, quote, "I was born into a world of very limited possibilities, but here I am. I made it, and I know you will too. We have one very important thing in common. We have received a great education from a world-class university, and we live in a land of opportunity where anything is possible." Students, we expect all of you to lead as our graduates. You will be ready because you've completed a Purdue education. You've learned how to work hard and still have a great time. You've learned to set your goals high and that you can accomplish much more working in teams. You've felt the power of giving back to your community. And you've learned that respect is the greatest attribute that you can accord to others and can expect for yourself. Bravo, class of 2010. We applaud your success. Go Boilers! Hail Purdue!